Hey there, this is Alex with Gray Area. Welcome to our series Spotlight, where our mission is to build a bigger and more united house music community by sharing new and exciting artists, festivals, and event brands with you. In this interview, you hear from Matt Caines, a DJ, producer, and event creator. His brand Art With Me consciously combines music, art, eco-activism, and education for one-of-a-kind event experiences. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more interviews like this.
Where am I speaking to you from today?
Tulum, Mexico.
Nice. How's the weather?
It's actually hot. Summer is here.
Nice.
Summer is here. Nice and humid.
Very good. Well, thanks for speaking to me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
No doubt. So first off, could you describe your sound to me like I've never heard dance music before? I have.
Wow.
But
like you've never heard dance music before.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I've actually never thought about it in a way that someone's never heard dance music. You know, I think a really interesting part is like it's something that's timeless, right?
Mm-hmm.
You always want to have something that's kind of deep, sexy, sophisticated. You try to keep it melodic, and also you want to have it fun and playful.
I like that. Well said. What's your musical background? How would you say your family contributed to your musical DNA? What'd you listen to when you're growing up?
Well, that's a two-part question. So the first part is, my dad was a big drummer when I grew up, and he actually he was a huge Beatles fan. So,
Nice.
Really going back to music that you don't really hear too often anymore. But
Right.
I was born in the late 80s, and my dad would have this, he was a drummer. My dad was born in the 50s. He has the original Ringo Starr drum set, the same one that's like discontinued. So same skin, same vinyl, everything. Some crazy collector's piece. And he used to just put on headphones and jam out. So percussion was something that kind of ran in the family with like rhythm, which is something I always like with my music, to get a little offbeat syncopation and a little groovy.
Yeah.
And growing up, you had all that classic music from my dad around the Beatles and stuff like that. And I really got into like the Chili Peppers and Pink Floyd and the usual music growing up that was just different, something that kind of brought you out of body and took you somewhere. So like storytelling, I think, is really important for musicians and DJs and artists.
Most definitely. So as you started to develop your own musical tastes, when did you start to fall in love with dance music?
Let's see it. It's probably like about over 10 years ago now. It was just like the progression of I was coming out of college at that time. And I think it was right around the time the first Electric Zoo happened. And I'm from New York originally, and a bunch of friends are, let's go. And we're just at that time where it was the first time you start seeing these very large events with not just bands, but like just high energy, lots of different people, everyone really showing a sense of community with each other, a different environment, a younger environment. And it wasn't like going to a concert where you're stuck in a chair, on festival grounds and everything. And then I continued that. I went from going to something as big as the first Electric Zoo when it started, then moving into, New York, into the different clubs and bouncing around, and you start going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting was I got deeper and deeper. I remember going to a couple of Richie Hawtin shows. I was like, okay, this stuff is awesome. And I remember I wanted to see him one day at a club in New York, and they were very strict on the door policy and didn't really want a 23-year-old kid walk in at the time. Not enough money to get into that one. But I walked into an event off the street, which really probably brought me to where I am today. And that event was City Fox. And it was the first City Fox pop-up in Soho. The irony of when I fell in that one, it was like the first time falling into a world of like just amazing music. At the time, all the artists were still not very well known.
Right.
And just like between the lighting and the sound, it had something special about it. Ironically, by going to that party, I ended up becoming one of the co-founders of City Fox in New York, building all their events for Billy and Philip and the Zurich team and the Brooklyn Mirage, and working with great people like Ganita from Listed and getting thrown into dance music, which showed me so many different amazing artists, and getting to spend time hanging out with them in the booth, watching them play, and just watching and watching until I got to a point where I was like, okay, I keep playing for fun in the bedroom, but I'm confident enough that I can put it out and just kind of ride with it now and see where it goes.
Absolutely. I kind of want to connect the dot there, because you mentioned working with City Fox, and you said you had like kind of a you had a transcendent experience at a City Fox event that led you to working with them. But I want to connect the dot between that, going to that event, and actually working with them. How'd that happen?
So I went to the event, and then the event happened. That was the first one, and then they did the second pop, and then I moved in with some two roommates in Brooklyn that actually taught me how to DJ. Rishi Patel, who's now a co-founder of Plus 8 Equities with John Acquavita and Richie Hawden. So we would have late nights playing, and then another one's Kelly Kellum, who's a big resident in New York City and Burning Man DJ. And these guys, we just had it at home. And ironically, after their second show at Output, which was Monkey Business, I think, I walked in and Ganita's standing in my kitchen, and Rishi turns around and was like, "Matt, you need to talk to this woman." And Ganita spoke to me for about 4 hours. It's like, "You want dance music? I'm going to give you dance music. You're going to work our next event." And I didn't know what I was getting into. I was a volunteer, which then grew into something much bigger. And it was also the first time someone convinced me I got to go to Burning Man. So Ganita, thank you so much for being that. And really after 7 burns later with her, and 10 years of being in the industry, and own my own festival, and my DJ career is starting to pick up. And it's really, really exciting. You just got, it gets hard, but you really just got to do it for the passion and the love of doing it.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of touched on something important too. You talked about community being a large aspect of it. And it sounds like your community, your own personal community, has played a large part in like every step of your career. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I am fully of the notion that, we got to be flexible in life. And part about being flexible is like, we may not always have the right answers, and we got to be open to being vulnerable and relying on people, or asking for help, or networking. The amount of people I've met through dance music really got me to where I'm at. Living in Tulum, partners on a festival here, partners with other great business opportunities. Like, worked for Summit Series for a while as the director of production. All that came through like networking and getting to know the community. And, there's some amazing people that show up at events, and people want to dance and have fun and be with like-minded people. And the contacts and the people you meet, it's really interesting through all hours of the night. And if you just keep these relations and you ask around and be vulnerable, like, there's always someone that can help. And everyone inside this community really does like to help each other. They want to see everyone do well and not just one person succeed. We've seen that in music and in corporations and businesses. And it's actually kind of the opposite, because I think as a scene, as we call it, that we want to see everyone be successful, and there's plenty to go around. So it's really interesting how the community can band together and do some amazing things.
Absolutely. It's interesting that that oftentimes the transition from fan to DJ, or fan to like event producer, happens separately, but it sounds like all of that happened at once for you. How do you feel like that? How did you take that transition from being like just somebody who used to go to parties to all of a sudden being thrown into not only just like helping throw events, but also being a DJ at them?
It was, I'm a person that goes all in. And to be honest, I have a degree in nutrition and used to be a health and wellness coach and all this stuff. And I just kind of ended a full big time swimmer and athlete. And I just hit a point I burnt out. I was like, I'm really going to go for this. And I kind of just didn't look back. So I started, and I'm a quick learner, and I really got on the production side, the operations side, really working with creatives to understand what they want and vision and be able to execute it. And that's probably just from a background of athletics. Yeah. And then knowing that the real underlining theme of everything I did was for the love of music, and just say, hey, like, I'm just going to take my time with this. And I know at one day it'll come through. And I think that's the big thing is, when people turn around and put so much pressure on themselves and really push, they don't allow things to organically happen. And when being an artist is tough, and to get the gigs or recognition and to grow and everything, we always want it to happen, but it's a process, and you got to kind of just nurture it. And I think being in the space And just by learning more and more and being watching and patient was the best thing that could happen to allow the DJing to grow.
Absolutely. So you moved from New York. You live in Tulum now, right?
I live full-time in Tulum with my girlfriend. I've been here, full-time since like 2018.
So what was it like making the transition from New York, which is, the biggest of cities, to Tulum, which is, it's really outdoorsy. It's a beautiful place, but it's like a far cry from New York.
Super far cry. And it's interesting because there was a couple stops along the way.
Yeah.
I left New York in about 2015. Mm-hmm. I went to Utah and started working with Summit Series. So I lived in the middle of a mountain, which was like 500 people. So that was my first culture shock.
Yeah.
Then I moved from there to Venice and tried the LA thing. And it's cool, but it's just different, especially from New York. And then, with where life and work, I got the opportunity to be invited down by my partner, David, who owns a ton of hotels and businesses here. And I always had a thing for Tulum. I've been coming here since like the BPM days in like 2013 and spending time here. And it was more and more and more. And finally I was like, you know what? Why not take a risk? It's a beautiful place. And back then it was still quiet. It was busy, but quiet.
Right.
Over the past year or two, it's really become almost like an Ibiza. The season doesn't end. It's nonstop. And, it's interesting. I think it was a nice time out, and it was a good time to like pause from the running of New York and always go.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for my time here, but looking at the future, I think it's time to get back into a city and get a little more transactions and things to happen.
Interesting. So you think you're moving back?
Moving somewhere. I can't
somewhere.
Say somewhere, maybe Miami. Actually, Miami, we have a lot of traction with some upcoming events. Miami's blowing up. A lot of friends there, a lot of opportunity there. Yeah. Tulum will always be a home base, but I'm not sure if I'll live here full time. I think bounce back and forth, easy back and forth, easy to get back to New York, and
right.
We'll see what happens.
That's and Miami's a happy medium between the two places. I feel like because
it's not, you still have a beach.
So yeah, exactly. And there's still some outdoors. You still have that tropical feel. And no cold, bitter winters.
Yeah. I think I've been on an endless summer for a while now, and it's nice. I must say, it's nice.
Yeah, it'd be hard to go back to 6 months of cold.
Yeah, that part. I'm going to stay away during the winter still.
Nice. So how'd you start working with Art With Me?
So Art With Me was a co-creation. It was actually founded by my partner, David Graziano, who was a longtime burner. And he really wanted to create an event that was like a Burning Man on the beach that's super sophisticated for him and his friends, and that, celebrates the creative arts. Yeah. And so we want to take all creativity and use it as inspiration to make positive change and impact in the world. We have 6 different pillars, from art, music, which is our Dance With Me program, culinary, which is Eat With Me, Play With Me for children. And we have a foundation called Care With Me. And we have our wellness called Breathe With Me. So it's really like, what would be the ideal perfect day of an experience? So wake up, do some yoga, go maybe to a talk and learn some information, hang out with your kids, go see some art, have a nice dinner on the beach, and finish it with some dancing, So we really have this quite a large concept, but it's been very successful in a short time, and we're very excited about the future.
Nice. And how did that intersect? Why is that intersection of like art and culture and culinary, all of these things, so important? Why is it so important to have like this kind of holistic experience?
Well, it's a balanced lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think everything comes down to balance. If we turn around and go back to, the warehouse rave nights, it's not very balanced.
Not at all.
With some people, just being out all night partying and never sleeping, like it's not a very healthy or a balanced lifestyle. So I think what ends up happening is, one, we have a big demographic. We have an old demographic. We have people with kids and not kids. So, there's a little bit of everything for everyone. and not everyone's going to want to do one thing, but we try to just be super balanced. And with that, we also try to, that's culture. Culture is supposed to be balanced, not supposed to be all one thing or all the other thing. So we want to highlight the best and most artistic and inspirational things per industry, per pillar, as we call it, and bring it all together to share with the world.
Absolutely. And working in Tulum, there's definitely an aspect of, well, there's two things. The first one I'll touch on is the cross-cultural aspect, because I suspect largely the audience that you're bringing in is international to Tulum. So how do you guys deal with the cross-cultural impact? Like, how do you deal with like having an impact on the local community with so many people coming in?
Yeah, so Tulum is, in Mexico, especially Quintana Roo, is built on tourism. Yeah, so that's something. That's the industry they're in. What we've been able to do with Care With Me, which is our foundation, and what we decided to do when we started the event was to carve out 20 to 30% of the budget and the event to give back to the local community. What that means is we've spent and invested a lot of money to offer programming for free for people in Tulum that probably can't afford the ticket. So by pretty much charging a ticket to international people who come to the event, it actually subsidizes programming for the local community. Prime example is we spent a lot of money about 2 years ago when we did an awareness campaign. So everyone had to bring 15 pieces of plastic in to get a free ticket to go see Bronco, which is like a very famous older band in Mexico, like a Mexican legend rock band. Nice. We had 7,000 people show up, and we paid the full production, and it was brought on and sponsored by the festival. And it was kind of to bring awareness about recycling and the waste management program, which we've been working on for many years here. And we've done that over every year. So we would have community days or bring children from schools into our beach pavilions and different pavilions where they can interact and still enjoy parts of the event that don't need to necessarily be they'd be priced out of.
Nice. And you kind of touched on my second point, which is the ecological impact. Parties have a very large ecological footprint. And you just kind of touched on the fact that you guys are doing something. What else do you do to bring light to our ecological impact as people? I know that's a big part of part of the event as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, with Care With Me, it's kind of our educational platform that does focus on, we focus on environment. We also focus on creative residencies and education and giving back. What's important about that is, we're like most events now are no single-use plastics. We have tons of panels about environmental technology, what's going on with the waste management in Tulum. We've been working with the government on different things on that stuff, what's going on with the ocean, what's going on with water. Our big thing is to bring awareness. We're not necessarily the people that can go fix it all, but we can have a platform to showcase, and then really try to teach like the best practices by showcasing this. Luckily, we invest in waste management for the whole festival. We've had great success, which we put on our Care With Me site on the footprint, and we've spent time offsetting our big event 2 years ago. We offset a ton of our carbon footprint, and we're planting trees down in Chiapas. So we try to do our best to make it a zero impact event. It's challenging because of where we are, but we do what we can. Nice.
And let's go touch on the musical programming. Because it's interesting. It's just an interesting aspect. I mean, we are a music website, and we're both musicians here. So what are you looking for in terms of musical programming for an event like this? Like, what kind of vibe are you looking to create?
That's the thing. It's a super well-rounded vibe, and the big thing with doing it in Tulum is Tulum became a DJ town. Yeah, very, very big party. So one of the things we wanted to do was stay away from always booking your really high, big people looking to rage off a DJ party all night. Right. Now, we do book some DJs, but like I said, they're people that are very very aware of their surroundings, very aware of playing their environments, very musically gifted. Yeah. And we really then kind of look at artistic talents. There are things that you might not see very often. A lot of live sets, a lot of hybrid sets, a lot of band. music that you can see during the day. Live music. I think live music brings a very interesting component. So we try to book a lot of sunset sessions on the beach, starting with live music, then might move into a live electronic music and end with a great closing, uplifting DJ set. Things that are not super eclectic, but, just overall good music is good music. I think we've done a great job of having some amazing artists come through. If it's like Bedouin playing an amazing DJ set, to David Artist playing live, to Bob Moses, to, even this guy, Rico Luke, who produces live for 4 hours on the fly. And there's all these different artists. And I think that's the big thing is, especially in this day and age, a lot of people want to be a DJ and are trying to break through. And we want to see how we could take that talent and put a spin on it so it's unique.
Absolutely. How do you feel like that's impacted your own musical taste and you as a musician?
It's great, actually. It's great because I'm open to things maybe I wasn't open to before. I'm working on a side project of launching a new label that really focuses on non-dance music. So from the ambient to whatever that can be, music without boundaries, with Anthony Middleton from Audiofly, and that should be out in a few months, and that's really exciting. And myself is I like music that's different, from electronica to things where you can take it and make people guess in a set. I think it's nice to be able, when you perform, to tell a story where you keep people on their toes and not sure it's not so ordinary. You're not expecting things. So to have a range, to understand either you're doing a remix of a very classic Latin track, or you're understanding, more progressive or offbeat music. It's interesting, and it's fun to find that. It's fun to play around with that and see where you can push and pull the energy of a crowd.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you.
So obviously art is a big part of the conversation as well with you guys. You guys have some absolutely amazing art. It's actually really cool to see big art on a beach and not
cool.
Not just in the sand at Burning Man. It's nice to see the ocean at its back. How do you see visual and experiential art intersecting with music and dance culture?
Oh, great question. I think in this day and age, especially as the generations get younger and our demographic gets younger from the producing side, that these brands have to do it. Otherwise, the kids can't stay focused on it. I remember going to parties or warehouses or things where it's a DJ and you got good people and we interact. Being a part of City Fox, I think we're the first people, North America really push it with like 3D sound, fully immersive mapping, multi-room dimensions, lounges. So you got to take people into these immersive worlds. Right. Elro is great at doing that now. Mm-hmm. You go to places like Lightning in a Bottle on the West Coast of Burning Man, they're the same way, that you go in and you're inside a world. What ends up happening is, what I've been trying to figure out as a designer myself for events is how you can take artists and incorporate them into like a stage design, and how then you could bring that to life with multimedia, from projection mapping to lighting and different things. The challenge is always, budgets and how to have artists all collaborate together. But I think it's super important because multidiscipline art is where everything's kind of going. Yeah. In blockchain with NFTs, now you see all this popping up with music and digital art. And I think the same goes into the physical space. And even though we're heading towards a place of the digital world, I didn't pivot the brand that hard. I took the time to really focus on really fine tuning our experiential side, because I know events will come back. And I think what's really going to separate the events when they come back is who can create an amazing experience for the attendee that is storytelling with performers and art and interactive art and education, and finding a way for people to find a new form of entertainment. The best people in the world that do it are Disney. So if you can figure out how to do what Disney does for one night with a musical event, you're probably going to be very successful.
Absolutely. It's interesting you point out that Disney is the best to do it, because I feel like that's I mean, it's a popular opinion, but it's something that people don't want to admit often. And
yeah, you don't want to admit it, but if you look at how much money they make, and you go to some of these rides and attractions, it's something that the only people that probably can match it right now are like Tomorrow World with the budget size of what they're doing. And it's an amusement park, right? At the end of the day, it's a really fun amusement park.
It is. It's one of my favorite places to go. So having said that, what excites you about going forward? I mean, we're leaving a really weird year, a year with almost no events, and we're moving, things are starting to brighten up. There's stuff being announced and we're like almost through it. What are you excited about going forward?
I think the fact of just like endless opportunity. I think everyone is very hungry for it. So the amount of energy that's going to come out of the gate and how excited and how people will be, that energy that they'll bring to the event will make the events amazing for performers, for artists to feed off of. I think, a lot of people are reevaluating where they're investing from the sponsorship or what they want to do or what they want their brands to, the story they want to tell. So from Art With Me and my perspective, I think we have a product that's going to grow quickly. We've been in talks with numerous countries actually around the world and looking at other cities in the US to kind of bring this event and experience to. And I think the other thing is, I'm really happy that artists get to go back to work again. It hasn't been easy for artists. I'm excited for all the music that I know all my friends have made but refuse to put out because they want to wait till we're back for people to buy it. So I think hearing new music is really exciting for me. And especially because I know a lot of people spend a lot of time in the studios, but they haven't released it yet. So I think it's going to be an amazing next year and going forward.
Absolutely agree. I want to go back to something you said about creating experiences and creating immersive experiences. And you talked about your work at City Fox. Can you tell me about a night where that really clicked for you? Like an experience that you had maybe on the dance floor or as a musician or even as an event producer where you feel like that idea of being fully immersed in something really hit home?
Yeah, actually, I can tell you that one sticks out really well. Is when we built the first Brooklyn Mirage, and that was a kind of a suicide mission to get done in 2 weeks. We got it done in 13 days, and we opened the first one off of Meserole Street, which is on the other side of the tracks.
Yeah,
we opened it, and there's I don't know what it was, like 100,000 square feet, the outdoor space. I was living at the venue for like 2 weeks, sleeping on hammocks with these palm trees in the middle of Bushwick. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And the thing is, we got the event open for City Fox, which was the opening day, but we still had about a week of work left.
Yeah.
And the following weekend was an All Day I Dream show, which was also one of the events that really musically brought me into watching back at the days of the Well, which Lee and Mike Corey and all these amazing old school artists. And those energies in that community just really like spoke to me and really helped me go down the music path. But we got it done. I remember getting it done, the All Day I Dream show, and it just a week after and everything finally be done and looking at the full venue and being in this environment where, like I said, we had 200,000 plants on the living wall and 21 palm trees in the middle of Bushwick. And you're sitting there and you see like 5,000 people on a dance floor, and you're just like, not only did you create this, but everyone around you also kind of coming together, they made this possible. And it's a really amazing feeling. And I've had a few of those, mostly after a production, and I see it's usually 2 days after a 3-day show, and you're looking at like, you're calmed down a little bit and you're listening to the music or watching the show, and you're like, okay, this was worth it. And it's kind of like an adrenaline rush, and maybe that's why I keep doing it.
Is it something that you're going to continue doing, or like forever and ever?
I don't know. It takes a lot out of me. It's a very demanding job. I'm happy with it now, and we'll see where the world goes. I'm still young, So I still got a lot left in me. And I think there's some amazing opportunities and deals we're working on. We're very excited that if they can happen, really see what we can do. And I'm good for a few more years. We got some more time left of producing the event, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, that's good to hear.
Thank you.
So final question, what's the message behind your work and how do you see it creating change in the world?
What's the message behind my work? And what was the second part?
How do you see it creating change in the world?
I think the big message is that, in the world, there's, we always like to kind of say like yes or no, or like what's right and what's wrong. And I don't really know technically, especially mostly from a creative standpoint. That's what I'm going to say, that there really is like a right or wrong. You got to take a risk as an artist. And it's not like there's a better way. There's just different ways, and there's different ways to look at things. And I think when you can turn around and you can inspire people to change their perspective is a really unique and amazing thing. And what can come from someone being inspired with a sense of awe and seeing something that's probably never been done before, and to shift their perspective is really, really powerful. And that can be applied in a million ways. And I think that's something that is really impactful.
Beautifully said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all I have for you. I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me today.
Oh, no, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. And we'll be in touch. But hopefully, you can bring some of these events to the United States and I can attend one soon.
Yes. We're actually going to do our first Dance With Me pop-up. We're going to do that in Miami on May 29th. So nice. A 12-hour event in Wynwood at a brand new venue. And we're very excited about that. Lots of art, music, and performances. And we have some other things that we will announce soon that we're planning for the U.S.
Very excited to hear about that.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
Great day. Thank you.
Right, you too. Bye.